Hey, this is WhyBeAre with BEamNG.drive, and today we're going to be taking a look at a mod called the Cessplane L19. And we have a lot of options here, with the biggest difference being some can go on water, some can't, and they have a bunch of different color schemes available. We're going to be starting with the US Army color scheme because I'm an American. It'd be a shame not to start with the American colors. So here's a quick look at the plane before we move it from this location, because there is pretty much no way we're going to be able to take off from here because we'll crash right into all of that junk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and bring it all the way down to about right here. And let's make sure we can actually take off here, because this is not a good runway. We have obstacles on the left and the right side, and it's not that long. We actually have to start lifting up right here. And thankfully we made it over the buildings and we are in the air. Now that we're in the air, I can go over the basic controls for this thing. So use T and G to control the throttle, and if you just want simple controls, use that and the arrow keys, because with the arrow keys you can bank to the left, you can bank to the right, and then you can also go up and you can go down. With that, you can fly. You also have more extensive controls if you're into that kind of thing. For the more extensive controls, you have the ability to control the flaps right here, so that flap right there can be controlled by hitting Y, and you see it extending right there. And you can hit H to retract it. Most of the time, I don't use that one too often. I might set it once and then pretty much forget about it. But we do also have control over the rudder, which is a lot more used by me, especially when we're on the ground, because this thing doesn't really steer unless you whip the rudder around like this, because the wheel attached to it is actually what does the steering. So if you want to drift your plane, you hit Z and X, and you can try to drift it. We actually might try that later on, because that sounds really dumb, doesn't it? Drifting a plane on the land. We could try drifting in the air. I mean, it kind of does that, but it's not nearly as dramatic here. It just kind of looks like it's swaying with a little bit of a wind or something like that. Then you also have these toggles. So the way this thing flies right now is if I hit left, it stays going left. Like, my hands are off the keyboard and you see it's still going left, still going left. If you don't like that, then you can just hit page up and page down, and now it's direct control. So when I hit left, it goes left. When I hit let go of left, it stops going left. I personally prefer this kind of thing because it's just easier to go straight. I don't have to worry about trying to, tap, tap, tap to make it all leveled out. It just levels out on its own. But if I want to do like a kind of swooping banked maneuver, this does not work out well for that, because you're basically tapping it just to kind of get that swooping motion, because you can't just have it tilted a little bit. So it really just depends how you're flying. If you're just kind of cruising, doing slow maneuvers, the other way probably works better. But if you're trying to really do like stunts and stuff, I would think this one would be a little bit more useful for that purpose. So, now that the controls are out the way, let's go reckless and try to hit this thing into some trees. I'm going to try to just pop it right there. Oh, nope. Ha! I dodged the trees. And the wheels just bounced me back into the air. That was amazing. Alright, come on. How's this tree? There we go. There goes our wing. And there goes the engine. There go the wheels. There goes the other wing. And let's see if there's any damage on the plane itself. Doesn't really look like it, because the wings took the impact and the plane itself just kind of slowly glided. And for our next flight, let's be from a completely different country. So we're going to get the Cessplane L19, French Air Force Edition, which has no additional information. It's all mysterious. And you'll notice every time you spawn up the plane, it goes a little bit to the right. So eventually you won't be lined up with the runway and you can't take off perfectly straight. Let's see if that's the case yet. So we're trying to take off perfectly straight and just barely clearing the building on the right side. And just like that, we are in the air. And also, when you respawn the plane like that, you lose the direct control mode, so I'm going to go and put that back on. Although I do notice that the plane likes to slowly dive when you put it in direct control. It doesn't stay level. You see right there, it's diving, got to pull up a little bit, and it's going to start to dive again. But it gets it level enough where we can take a look at the plane. So, pretty simple design on this thing. It just has a French-style flag on the rear right there, and then II2694 for the number, which I looked up online and it didn't seem like it represented anything special or anything like that. So you know what I think might be fun? What if we try to do a water landing with one that doesn't have the water attachments, and then we do a water landing with one that does have the water attachments? So I see a lot of water over here, looking nice and appealing for an attempted landing. So this is like an emergency landing type of situation. And I'm going to make it even harder on the plane. I'm going to say the engine can't stop. Because you could slow it down and make it a little bit easier on the plane, but we're going to say something's wrong with the plane, the engine won't turn off, this is the only way to slow it down. Because you literally, I know there's probably no way such a situation could exist, but for fun hypotheticals. And actually, wow, that did so well. Like, that was surprisingly gentle. The wing just Oh, I'm not a boat. I'm out of here. This is nonsense. I like the way they just shot off in every direction, though. That was unexpected. But yeah, that worked pretty well. Now, let's go ahead and try it with one that actually is made for the water. So we're going to go ahead and grab yet another version of the plane. This time we're going to go with the... Well, you know what? I would pronounce this wrong no matter what. There are like so many words here I could pronounce wrong. So let's just call this the L19 9th from Japan. And before we see how well this thing can land on water, we're going to see how well it could take off on land, which is probably going to be awful. But here we go. Start accelerating, and we'll see if the rudder is enough to maneuver us out of the way of these trees. All right, we're up to like 30 miles per hour. This thing is going way too slow to actually take off. I'm going to try to give it some lift. And simply put, it's not happening with that runway. It's too short. Maybe if we had a longer one. We can come back to that and test it later. But for now, let's just actually get it to the water and take off from there. So I'm just going to splash it down right about there. That looks good. We're actually going to let it splash down because I'm seeing what would happen there. Actually nice and gentle. That was great. Now for actual takeoff. Here we go. Increase the throttle. And make sure the elevator and aileron mode is in direct. And then up we go. Nice thing about water is there's nothing to hit around here. Like the smoothest takeoff possible. And in terms of flying characteristics, it doesn't feel that much different to me than the other one, even though it has all these extra things attached to it. I don't notice a difference because I am not an expert pilot. You know, expert pilots out there are like, oh, this one, its flying capabilities are hindered because it doesn't have the amazing lightweight characteristics of the other one or something. This is just like, yep, it flies pretty similar to me. Anyways, as for landing, you already saw splashdown worked. How about a really aggressive landing where we kind of dive at it? Speedometer's reading 100 miles per hour here. And, whoops, I actually pulled up a little too fast. Oh, it bounced us in the air because we're going so fast. This is going to be dumb. Okay, water landing's gone. No water landings. I mean, yeah, if you were actually landing, you would slow down. But I wanted to do the same test. The other one, I did a test without slowing down. I figured we'll do the same with this one. All right, let's try to actually see what happens if we slow it down and then just kind of gently lay into the water with nothing on the bottom of the plane. Like right here, this would be a good spot to use the other elevator mode and stuff, but doesn't matter. We already landed, and it wasn't too harsh, but once again, those wings just fall apart. So now, we're gonna land for real. None of this 100 mile per hour landing nonsense. Just a regular landing. Pop into the air. You do a quick little flight around the place. Elevator! Do something cool! I just held down like all the controls to see what would happen. Oh no 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 no! Bounce! That's also a way to land. I legit have no idea how that didn't crash. It's just now it's just driving along the top of the water like what the what? What? How is it going still? This makes no sense. What? I kind of want to see if it gets to the land, but it's going so slow. Come on, plane. Get to the land. Get to the land. You can do it. It's like watching a snail race. Like, it's going to get there eventually. It's going to be amazing. Come on. It looks like somebody took a boat and made it look like a plane. That's what it looks like it's going on right here. Because it doesn't have any sort of flotation device that you can see. Does it have something on the rear? Is that what it is? I mean, it has attachments to the rudder to kind of allow it steering in the water, it looks like, but it doesn't seem like it has anything that's really making it float. But it's over. It's gonna make it. It's gonna make it. Back to the plane. Ah, we're safe. We could turn off the engine now. Now that is how you do an emergency landing with an idiot pilot. I think the problem here is I need a different skin for the plane. How is that gonna help? I don't really know, but we've been flying this one for a while and it's time to change. So let's get the Bunny 2 from the Australian Army, which I can actually read. And it's one of the 2 planes loaned to the Australian Army. They had 2. That's got to be rough, only having 2 planes. When you only got 2 planes, you got to start it gently in the water. And you'll notice it actually has a German flag on the rear, so you could assume Germany is the country that lent them. It also has the Bunny right there, which is why it's called the Bunny 2. And I actually really like the design right here, where it has like this ripple look to it. It looks really cool, especially when you got a seaplane. And then it has a kangaroo right there because nobody would know it was Australian if it didn't have that kangaroo. That's the way Australia works. Anything you get from Australia, it has a kangaroo on it. You import something from Australia, kangaroo on it. That's how you don't get Australia and Austria confused. You look for a kangaroo logo. Ah, it must be Austria. Nice and easy. So anyways, we'll get this thing into the air and do a actual regular landing into the water. So we're up to about 80 miles per hour, which is cruising speed. So we're going to go ahead and basically kill off the engine just to get some speed off of this thing and slow it down a little bit. Get the engines on a little bit so we don't stall out though. Okay, we're accelerating. You don't want to accelerate. That's the key. We want to keep slowing down. So again, we're going to just get the engines completely off. Let it float. Let it float in the air. Get a little bit of power, a little bit of power. And this is looking pretty good. Not too bad. About 30 miles per hour on impact. Could have been softer. Whoops. Don't want to keep pulling up once you hit the water. You're going to end up doing a backflip or something. That was actually a pretty good landing, though. So let's go ahead and get this thing back into the air and crash it into something. And then we'll look at the inside because there are some cool things on the inside of this thing. But that right there finally proves that the little floaties on the bottom of the plane actually work. I mean, it worked without them too, which is hilarious, but it worked better with them because I was actually getting back into the air and not just drive around like I'm a boat. This is not a boat. But I still think that'd be a really dumb thing to do in real life, is somehow find a way to make a boat look like a small personal aircraft, and then you just have a plane going through the water, and I don't know, that'd be so stupid, but it'd be hilarious. So I see all these trees. We're just going to look for one that looks like it's nice and big and fat. There looks like a good one. We're going to go right into it. Direct hit. Awesome, although I can't see nothing. We'll turn the engine off because it's not doing nothing here. And it looks like most of the parts just disappeared instead of deforming, unfortunately. But we have a ton of parts on the ground, and we got fire! We got fire! So, although it doesn't really deform much, I like how the parts fall off of it. Into the cockpit we go. You'll see there are a ton of gauges, most of which are functional. So, let's go through the gauges. First, we have an airspeed indicator right here. And you can see, when we increase our speed, it increases as you'd expect. Directly below that, we have an altitude indicator. So if we increase our altitude, the readout on that increases as well. Directly to the right of it, we have a slip and churn indicator, which I don't exactly understand, but you see if you slip and churn, the readout on that changes. It goes to the left and then it goes to the right. Let's try to level this thing out. And then above that, we have a compass. And if we do left and right maneuvers, you should see the compass adjusting as expected. So let's go ahead and do that real quickly. Looking pretty good. And then just for some fun, let's go ahead and dive and see what the compass does right here. Ooh, we actually got flipped around. I didn't actually see what the compass did though. I like the flotation things are still attached, but the plane is upside down in the water. That looks so ridiculous. Continuing on with the gauges, we have a clock right here, and then above that clock we have a variometer, which shows your rate of ascent or descent. So if we start to go into the air, you'll see it increases the number there, and then if we were to go down, it would do the exact opposite. Above that, we have this right here, which is an attitude indicator, and it tells you what angle the plane is relative to the ground below you. So if we go really steep like that, you'll see the readout looking like that, then we gotta level it out before we crash. It's getting scary right there. And then this is an oil temperature readout, which I don't know if it actually really changes under normal flight. I don't think I've seen it happen. And then below that we have a suction gauge, which is, again, I'm not sure if it actually changes in normal flight. To the right of that, we have an oil pressure gauge. And then to the right of that, I think it's an oil temperature gauge. That's the one I wasn't exactly sure what it was. And then above that, which is this gauge right here, that is a fuel gauge. Over here, this is a strain gauge, which I can't actually see the needle on it most of the time when I'm flying, so I don't know if that one actually works. Like, you try to see it, and it's just like, I can't tell. And then to the right of that, we have a wing flap angle gauge, so if I change the angle of the wing flaps by hitting the correct button, you'll see it change. So if we hit Y, it goes down, and then if you hit H, it goes back where it started. And then in the bottom right, we have a tachometer. So if we take the revs off the engine, you see it drop. And then we turn the engine back on before we die, and it'll hopefully start to get back up. There we go. And in addition to all of these gauges, we also have functional interior bits. So if we pull up, pull down, it moves as you would expect. And if you increase and decrease the throttle, you have a little lever that looks like it's actually being moved about. I didn't notice anything that happens when you bank to the left and right, though, because I'm doing that right here. Don't really see any change, but if you use the rudder, the pedals on the ground will change. So you hit go left, go right with the rudder, the pedals go down and up. Now, let's go ahead and wreck this thing right into the ground and see if there's any damage on the plane or not. So that was a huge hit. Lots of things disappearing. Is there any actual damage, though? Well, we got some fire, but Looks like the parts just kind of disappear, no damage. I'm thinking we're going to do one more flight here, then we're going to go to a different map and do some different things. So this one we're going to use the Royal Norwegian Air Force version, which again has no additional information. So go ahead and get this thing started and take a quick look at it. Pretty simple design, just green, green, green with small logos and the number 568. Kind of curious, if we just keep accelerating and accelerating and accelerating, what speed will it top out on the water? Looks like it's going to top out at about 50, 51. So now we'll actually get into the air and we can keep increasing speed and keep increasing elevation. But we just want to crash. And we're going to do this with a camera angle that may or may not work. We're going to try using the external camera angle and see what happens. I have no idea what's going on. Oh goodness, I can't see. This is dumb. This is so dumb. It's either going to work great or awful. I can't tell where I'm going at all. Hey, it kind of worked. That's okay. It kind of worked. I had to try it. I had to try it because I was really curious how the camera would work with a flying vehicle in it. You can tell it's not made for that, but it didn't do terribly. And now we're camouflaged in here, so this is, 50 years after the war. This is a lost plane until somebody finds it, just blending in with all of the trees and grass. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and go to grid map, and we're going to try crashing some things into the plane and seeing what happens. The next test we're going to do is we're going to shoot a cannonball at the plane. So to do that, we're going to just pick one plane basically at random. I don't even know what country this one is from. And then we're also going to go ahead and pick the old cannon to shoot at it. And then we got to spend 18 minutes lining up the cannon because it has such awful steering capabilities. So I'm just going to do like a quick spin around right here to try to get this thing lined up properly. That looks pretty close. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this spot and then I can come at it from a couple of different angles if I want to. Well, maybe not. We'll see how this angling actually works out. So I'll park the cannon like right about there. Go about 16 times slow-mo. And then we're going to go ahead and line up the camera. And fire. Ooh! It actually broke it in half! Oh, that's awesome. I did not know you could literally break the plane in half. That is so cool. Somehow the engine is still running after all that. I'm not exactly sure how that works. Okay, I gotta do that again because that looked cool that time. I hope this one will look just as cool. Hit it in a different spot. This time, we're gonna hit it head on and see if the cannon can like shoot through the whole plane. So we'll just try to line up this cannonball like that. It looks pretty close. Just back it up one more time. Save this spot. And then we should be good to go for this next one. So we're gonna just line up the cannon right in front of the plane. We'll increase the height a little bit so it doesn't go under it. How does that look? That looks pretty good, maybe a little bit higher. And then 16 times slow-mo and fire. Ooh, it deflected off a little bit. I don't think we can actually shoot through the whole plane, but it really destroyed the front of that. You can actually see there is some bend to the fuselage of the plane right there. That's something I never noticed on earlier crashes. But the front of the plane basically disappeared. We got a little bit of fire, and then we got the base of the propeller just floating there. And of course the wings fell on the ground. And cannon is recoiling so hard. What is that? What is that? There's some piece bouncing away. Oh, it's the wheel! It's so tiny of a wheel. That's funny though, you just see the wheel bouncing. Does that mean the wheel isn't here? Ah, it's the rear wheel. That's why it's such a tiny one. Yeah, those ones do look a little bit bigger, don't they? Alright, so anyways, go ahead and reset my cannon and reset the plane. And now we're going to do some mid-air collisions between two different planes, which is not easy to do, but I'm going to do my very best to make it happen. So we'll go ahead and grab the Canadian trainer version of the plane, and then we're going to teleport it way back here, and we're going to get both the planes in the air, hopefully, and crashing into each other. So we'll accelerate this plane first, and then we can go and swap to this one and accelerate with this one as well. And I want to do at least 2 impacts. One at full speed, and then one with a ton of slow-mo. This is going to be the full speed one. Pull up! Gotcha! So I lost my wing there. This one, it took my wing and is now on fire. How can it fly? Oh, it doesn't feel right. I can't keep it level, and we're gone. That worked out pretty well. Let's go ahead and reset both of these and try again for the second one. So that one's getting in the air, and so is this one. And then I gotta be really careful with the slow-mo here because I'm using my keyboard. Normally I use my controller, which makes it a little bit easier, but this doesn't really support the controller. So like, get the slow-mo right here, and then we're gonna go ahead and get the camera in a cool position. And we're gonna go crazy with the slow-mo. I'm gonna say let's go 100 times slow-mo, which is Probably going to be overkill, but I don't want to miss anything from this impact. And it looks like it's going to be pretty much the same as last time, where I take the wing with my Canadian trainer and the other one just falls to the ground. At least it's consistent, even though I have no idea how it was consistent, considering I just kind of, threw them both in the air and just saw what happened. I mean, if I wanted more varied crashes, I wouldn't be doing the take them both off and then actually try to hit them. If you want varied crashes, use the cheater mode, where you just get them both flying in the air and then teleport them into each other's paths so they wreck into each other. That is the lazy way to get more unique angles, but this is actually a lot harder to get them both in the air and both actually hitting each other in a 100% legitimate fashion like that. So I see a few parts of this plane all over the place. Let's go ahead and reset this one and then reset the other one. And then we could do some cheater crashes. So all I'm going to do is just get it into the air, and I'm not going to worry about actually crashing into each other. We just want them flying. So that one's flying, this one's flying way up, this one's flying whatever direction it wants. And we got to get them in, weird angles. So this one will go off to that side, this one will go kind of diving this way. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and become the other plane and then teleport it into place with F7. Actually, it looks like they're going to be a perfect collision for this. I wanted to make sure I knew what angle the other plane was at. So we're just going to plop it right there. Oh, it didn't work. Ah, kind of worked. That's so cheating. That is so cheating, but it kind of worked. Oh, I love how this was still flying somehow. I don't know how it's even managing that. So, why did that not actually work? That's a good question. Most of the time you can teleport and it keeps momentum, sometimes it doesn't. I haven't figured out the exact specifics of what causes it to sometimes keep momentum and sometimes not. That's probably something I should figure out someday. I just never bothered to test it. So, got two very different angles on the planes. Let's go ahead and bring the Canadian one over, and it works. All right, it looks like it has momentum this time. Good. Now I'm going to actually line it up properly. Since that one's going upward, you want to get it where they're going to for sure crash. And one of the cool features about update of a while ago is we can hit slow-mo right now and then unfreeze physics, and it stays in slow-mo. So we go unfreeze and then impact, wing to wing impact, both lose a wing. And if I had to guess, I could probably land this one. We'll see. So we're going to go ahead and take this into full speed and try to land it. And you notice I keep screwing up the slow-mo because of the difference in controls. I'm not used to using the keyboard for slow-mo. So I keep freezing physics when I mean to speed it up and slow it down. So actually, this is going very well. I have a lot of control, even though it's completely engulfed in flames. Keeping it nice and gentle. Oh no, my wheel fell off! Well, either way, that was a pretty gentle landing. I mean, by WhyBeAre standards, that's very gentle. And by standards of just getting into a crash with another plane, that's extremely good. How'd the other plane hold up? The engine is still running apparently, but it has been obliterated. So we'll go ahead and do one more of these, and I gotta get this thing into the air in a super cheaty way because it's floating in the air. So get it in the air like that, and then we get this one in the air. How you doing? You're doing great. We're gonna go ahead and just tilt you in some direction, tilt you in a direction too. How you doing? Oh goodness. All right, I can't do any more. The thing's about to crash, so just go ahead and teleport it right there. Looks close. Maybe a little bit more to the side. There we go. Perfect. And then we got to get that right camera angle. And again, I'm using the keyboard for the camera stuff too, which is why I'm messing that up as well. I'm not good with the keyboard controls. I'm used to the controller. Anyways, here we go. Perfect impact. And just pieces going everywhere. That is awesome. And neither of these planes are going to land gracefully. They're both going to crash and be destroyed. And that'll be it for this video, because that's a beautiful impact and I want to end on something beautiful. Because there's no point in doing Leap of Death and Brutal Slope because this is a plane. It flies. It's not going to work. So until next time, this has been WhyBeAre. I'll see ya.